Hello and good evening and welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and this is our first Wednesday at our new day, ladies and gentlemen. We already have a ton of people already here. I want to thank everyone that has followed us over to the new day on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from our normal Mondays that we've been doing for the last couple of years. And I want to thank you for being here. Let's get into the introductions because we have two monster topics that are going to take up a full 2 hours of your night, and hopefully you're going to enjoy it. We're going to start first with Kay Asante. Kay Asante, your background is looking so much better. The house has been put back together. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Good evening. Good Wednesday evening to everybody. I'm happy that it looks like a lot of our friends have joined us on this Wednesday. This is awesome. Yes, my background is semi back to normal. I'm not as much in the construction zone as I usually am. And of course, the Everborn saga is fashionably late. So we're on time right now. Let's get it started.
And you don't sound like you're in a church this week. So
I was good. I sound like I'm in a church?
No, you don't anymore.
Oh, I don't. Okay, that's good. That's good.
The echo.
Excellent.
The echo's good.
Yeah, no.
Yes,
You sound great. You look great. Glad that things are working out. And sooner or later, you're going to be back to full capacity with no strange men in your house. It's just going to be you and the family.
Pause, brother. Pause.
Right there.
Strange men were in your bedroom? What's going on?
What is going on?
I didn't say that, Mr. Everborn Saga. Listen, Wandering Dutch, welcome back, brother. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Wednesdays are now christened as Double Dutch Wednesdays. So there's two shows that I'm on. Obviously, just finished my podcast a couple of hours ago, and now back on prime time on a new Wednesday evening. So it's going to be awesome. We're going to have some fun. We've got some awesome topics, and of course, an awesome panel as always. So let's get into it.
Ah, yeah, brother. Can't wait to get into it for sure. Crispy Bomb, our newest member, the best voice in the business. How are you feeling, brother?
Oh, it's a great day. It's 80 degrees out. This is the weather I love. There is no wind because in Connecticut, wind really happens. And yesterday was super windy and like 60, but it felt like 40. Today, it's like 80 and perfect. No humidity. Just going to be waiting for that humidity, though. You know how it goes, Boom. That humidity comes hard, bro.
I hate it.
And then we're almost at the point where we got to bust out the ACs because we got that thick blood up here, man. I'm telling you. I went to Florida. I was dying. I'm like, I'm never going to Florida again. I can't do it. So glad to be here. We got some fire topics and, just looking forward to, seeing what we got to say about some of these things. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Next up, Everborn Saga. Welcome back, brother. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Happy to be here on Wednesday. Is your deck
finally done?
It is. They're actually out there right now. I'm watching them.
Love it.
With the grill. I have to go and flip some pork chops that I have on the grill in a minute, right after this intro. I'm multitasking.
That is ridiculous.
Hey, listen, I just got out of an amazing space with Xbox University and Khalif Adams was there. Paris came up to speak.
That's
a lot of stuff. I sent everybody over here, so we'll see. And there were 200 and some people there. Let's see how many of them we get to come over as they finish, as they wrap up that space.
You know what? That sounds really dope. I definitely appreciate it. And we want to welcome everyone that finding the channel new for the first time.
And so sometimes spaces can be positive, people.
Sometimes spaces indeed can be positive. Last up, the baldest head in the business. What's going on, Mag? How you feeling?
Oh, man, you know what? I'm glad to be here. It's a little strange on a Wednesday, but you know what? Same old crew, same old stuff. You know what? We're going to bring the thunder as we always do, and I'm excited to be here tonight. But I got to ask you, the show's a little bit different these days because we got a little something lurking in the background. I got to ask you, Boom, what are you playing this week?
Well, honestly, with all of the WB Discovery talk, I got back into Mortal Kombat 11 there, Mag.
Unbelievable. And let me tell you something. Mortal Kombat, NetherRealm, they're the king. Okay, NetherRealm is the king, hands down.
It's funny that you say that, hands down, because my hands were down my NetherRealm area, and it was a cursed forest.
Well, it was. Well, let me tell you something, folks. Let me tell you something, Boom. Time to get Manscaped. That's right. Today's show is brought to you by Manscaped. All right, we got a corporate sponsor in here, and let me tell you something. There's going to be no pause on this tonight. You got to use that, folks. Go to their website, check it out. You could use that Lawnmower 4.0 7,000 RPM motor with skin safe, because let me tell you something. When you're going down to your nether realm, the last thing you need is a bloody fatality. So you want to have that skin safe technology. And I got to tell you, all you got to do is you got to type in DBG20 for a 20% discount and free shipping. Boom. Please tell the folks about some of the products that you got.
Well, listen, I'll say this, Mag. If you want to finish him like Boom did this morning, all you have to do is go over to manscaped.com to check out all of their products, like the Weed Whacker for those pesky ear and nose hairs. Type in the code DBG20 at checkout to save 20% and free shipping on your first order. That's at manscaped.com.
Fantastic. And guys, isn't that a great way to announce the fact that we've got ourselves a corporate sponsor? Oh, Boom has a corporate sponsor on his channel. Are we going to congratulate this man on the air or what?
Well, listen,
Congrats.
you know
There we
what?
go.
I
Is that
definitely
over?
appreciate
Like,
that.
I have to say it. Is it over now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Pause, Boom.
Listen, I didn't want to say it because the sponsors, but I stepped away for 1 second. I come back. We're talking about men in bedrooms. I don't know what's going on, man.
Yep. Now you know.
Well, listen, you know what? I can't thank Manscaped enough for choosing Double Barrel Gaming. This is still a very small channel, and the fact that they picked me to work with me for a little bit is absolutely incredible. But you know what? I do, before we get into the topics, I gotta talk about something a little bit serious. We are on our new night on Wednesdays. It's something that it was something we were as a group of men toying with, of what we can do to find a new audience and of course make it work for all of our schedules. But we start at 7:00, but we're sharing the night with a good friend of this channel, a good friend of the community, Wilmy Hood. And he does have his show Gaming Beyond the Box at 8 p.m. on his YouTube channel. Now, if you're a fan of his work, and I don't know why you wouldn't be, because he's a great dude, if you have to leave our show to go over and support Wilmy Hood, no harm, no foul. You get over there, you support Wilmy Hood, you tell him that Boom sent you, and then what you guys do is you check us out on the video on demand, maybe tomorrow or later on this evening. Obviously, we don't want to pull views away from someone that's been on their spot, but we needed a new spot, and there's only so many places we can go on YouTube. So Gaming Beyond the Box, 8 p.m., Wilmy Hood's channel. If you're a supporter of his work, please get over there and let him know that Boom sent you. But let's get into the topics of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And we have to talk about Xbox Live going down for some, but not all, because the Wandering Dutch and I, we had no problems whatsoever. But I was reading as soon as yesterday that people were unable to access their digital content for almost 4 days, and that kind of stinks. But I'm not technical, folks. I think you all know that. I love video games, but I'm not a tech head. And we have several tech heads on here that are going to talk about why this can't happen again, why Microsoft has to do better, and why this actually happened. And I'm going to go to Kay Asante. Kay Asante, we were talking exclusively the last couple of days, and obviously, again, it went down for some, not all. Like I said, Dutch and I didn't have any problems, but a lot of people did. Why did this actually happen?
So let me ask first and foremost, and since you said you and Dutch didn't experience it, do you and Dutch game share? That is a very pertinent question.
No, we do not.
Yeah. We don't game share together, but I game share with somebody else.
And
no issues.
You didn't have any issues, exactly.
Nope.
Okay, so that was a conversation that was being had on the internet for quite some time. That it must have had something to do with game sharing. There was conversations about it potentially having something to do with Fortnite being added as an option for free. All those things were debunked by various engineering teams throughout the evening. Even Microsoft engineers came out and debunked a lot of that conversation. So what happened at the base level? It's an authentication issue. They have these servers. Every time you log in, it's supposed to see who you are based on what it knows from your ID and where you live and all that stuff, and go, oh yeah, this is the person we know, and then give you access to your account and all of its rights. If at any point that, excuse me, If at any point that's not able to happen, then it's not able to authenticate you. It doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know if the rights that it's given you is actually, it belongs to you, right? And every game you buy, whether it be on Game Pass or a game you own, it's just literally a digital right, a rights certificate that's been associated with your account. So if you can't check and find that and say, oh yeah, that's him, then you're not playing your game. That's basically the long and the short of it. I don't necessarily think, and I will leave it to Dutch and others to go further down deeper into the path of the technical aspects if they so choose. But where I think I wanna hit this is, none of this should have been something that people experienced or had to deal with or had to get knowledgeable on. All of this stuff, DRM is necessary, and cheat plug. We will be talking in more depth about DRM on my show this weekend, the Gaming Circle podcast with Mr. Everborn Saga. It will be on this Saturday. We will be going deep onto DRM, but basically at a high level, it's necessary, but no one wants it around, right? It's a necessary evil. We all know it.
Yep.
In order to keep it where it is, which is in the background where no one pays attention to it, it cannot be inconvenient, right? And it can easily, and when I say easily, I mean easily within the realms of software engineering. And I'll leave Mr. Everborn Saga to expound on that because he is a software engineer. But within the bounds of software engineering, it can easily be put in to check and double check and recognize that, hey, maybe I'm having an issue, and that's the reason why I'm not able to access the server that I know I should have access to in order to verify your authentication. So because I cannot access the server or the location that I'm supposed to be accessing, maybe I will then forego this check in the short term while I get that sorted in order to get the player back in the game and continue playing what they're doing. I have been having conversations. Shout out to Pixelbit G, who's always a great member, who's always in the chat and all that. A lot of good software engineers. We've been having conversations about this thing for most of the week. Digital rights management is necessary, right? And these things will happen, whether they had enough authentication servers for everybody or not, or maybe one of them went down in a certain region, and that's the reason why the authentication was face planting. That's neither here nor there.
Listen,
but in order to,
hold on,
sorry.
Something. All I'm going to say, I'm not
Please.
one for conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
As soon as they bring Fortnite into xCloud,
you make a deal with the devil, and
that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying, right, everyone? Like,
yeah,
like whether it be they didn't have enough authentication service, even let's go down that thought process of they put Fortnite on, and so many people hit that authentication server that it brought it down. All that can be true, okay? Even though it's been debunked that it's not, but all that can be true. Even in that hypothetical world, you can easily set up this very intelligent console that has hypervisors and multiple operating systems based on what it sees to go, hey, you've asked me to authenticate to this location to check this person's ID. I've checked once, I've checked twice, I've gotten nothing back. Maybe I should be smart enough to know that it's something with the server and not the person. So instead of assuming that the person is fraudulent and blocking everybody, maybe I'll let them in for the short term while I check the Microsoft status page, which if you checked the Microsoft status page, you would see that it said they were down, right? So if the humans can see that, they can make the automation work so that it also checks to see that, oh, the problem is with us, so please continue playing your games. Well, so they can do that.
There's other aspects to this too. I think a simple short-term fix is changing the check-in time.
Exactly,
or at least extending it, right? Because if they had it,
but so that you're clear, and I heard that as well. Just real quick, usually the check-in time is very lenient. Usually, specifically with Game Pass, it's once a month because it's basically it's tied to if you have a monthly subscription, it just checks that at the end of that month to make sure you subscribed, and then it moves on to the next. Usually, it's pretty lenient. There was some kind of like issues going on with their system that then reinitiated the check-in out of band.
Right, but so then there's also like local token storage, right? Like so your iPhone, right? Like when you authenticate through Face ID has a token to say that this is you, and they actually don't even share that with Apple. So I wonder if there is sort of a backup local token that you could
Good
sort
option,
of
yeah.
use in events like this.
But then, of course, that also presents the problem of, well, where are you going to store it? Can it be hacked? Can somebody get access to it? You know, all the logistics that come with these kind of things.
If they could do it on the iPhone, they could do it.
They can do it there. Exactly. I guess that's where my point. I'm bringing it in this avenue because Boom, who was prefaced the story by saying he's non-technical. This is not a thing that you have to be technical in order to speak about. Yeah, there are technical solutions to this, but they could have implemented them, and they should have implemented them. And I actually think that we should go even further, and I will expound on that a little further on my show. But for the purposes of this discussion, they can do more in this realm, and they rely on the fact that people don't know any better, so they just kind of let it be status quo, which is unfortunate. So I think they deserve some righteous smoke in this arena. I just hope that people use the right language when they're talking about it, because if you get it wrong, it doesn't get to the problem at hand, and I think that's where we're getting a little lost. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it so far.
All right, I mean that's good stuff.
Just one thing, to be fair, the average consumer shouldn't need to know the proper terms, right?
Exactly.
All they know is they couldn't play, and that's all they need to know.
Exactly. And that's unfortunately what bites us in the butt when it comes to this, right? In order for there to be that righteous change you're looking for, you must be knowledgeable in the arena which you're asking for change. But in this arena, it takes a while to become knowledgeable, and that shouldn't be expected of a normal consumer. They should just be able to play their game, you know?
That's the thing. Like for example, I would just want to piggyback on that quick. The fact that you've got like 5 billion people that say have a cell phone, we don't need to know the inner workings of how the cell phone works. We just need to know that we could pick it up and utilize it, just like you could with an Xbox, with a PC, with a PlayStation, with a Switch, whatever. So when it comes to this kind of thing, yes, it has to stay in the background, except for that, let's say that 5% of people who actually do know what's going on and the reasons why it are happening. But the problem is the majority of people just want to turn it on and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
that's what they see.
And let me expound just a little bit on exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, so for years now, and I will let you guys speak. For years now, every time the console generation comes and goes, the minute it goes, all of a sudden everything is, you drop the one, you move on to the next, right? But what happens to the prior gen? Right now, because we're in the chip shortage era, the PS4 is more talked about, and the Xbox One is still around. But by now, under normal circumstances, they want to disavow all knowledge of their existence. They want you to move on to the next gen as quickly as possible, right? Yeah. But there are still, like, upon last check-in, there are at least 1 million Xbox 360s that are turned on every day, right? What happens to those? They are still tied.
Who those people are. Also,
I want to know too. This is my point.
Can we just buy them a Series S?
No, but here's the point. They are shackled to Microsoft, and they will continue to be because nobody talks about it. DRM keeps them that way. If we were of those that knew and went, hey, we get the DRM is necessary, we get that we don't want any piracy or whatever, but guess what? Xbox One is over now. We're in the series consoles. Unlock this thing. Let the console turn on without having to check your server. It is no longer your device. You've already sunsetted it, right? You can't buy an Xbox 360 anymore. So why does it still have to talk to Microsoft? Right? You paid your money. It's yours now. These are all things that DRM keep them hooked to you, even though you should know better and force them to relinquish those controls. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, everyone.
Oh, I was saying, more importantly, there are 238 people watching and only 80 likes. I think we need to correct
please hit that like button. What's wrong with you people? Do it now.
I appreciate that.
Show the YouTube algorithm that Wednesday was the right move. Please, we beg you.
Indeed. Yes.
Dutch, let's get your opinion on this, because you and I have a different look. We're going to have a different conversation than a lot of people did. Game share, which, again, was a potential issue for some, and you had no issue. I played Halo Infinite multiplayer, which I'm just about. I was one match away from level 58 on my battle pass, and that is this season. I am addicted like crack cocaine. Let's just say that. Pause. And I love it. I think what they've done is just great. I want more maps, of course, everyone does, but it's so much fun. I can't stop playing it. But you didn't have a problem. Was this as big a deal as people were making it out to be? Because it seems like, depending on who you ask, some had problems and some didn't.
The funniest thing I've noticed, well, it's not even funny. It's just the thing that I noticed that was kind of prevalent on, specifically in my time being in kind of European and having a predominantly European friends list on Xbox specifically, is the fact that it seemed to majorly affect the international scene, but not really affect the European scene. On the European front, and obviously our podcast covered this earlier on as well, none of which on our podcast had any issues. None of us. All of us from different areas of Europe, the Netherlands, Germany, UK. And none of us had issues, both on xCloud. Myself, I was playing on xCloud, checked to Yomi and Unpacking, which is a little indie game. I was playing on Flight Sim. I was playing on Halo, Sea of Thieves, Red Dead Redemption 2. There was a number of games I played across the weekend, and I had absolutely no issues with any of them, as was the same for any of the guys on my show. So it seemed very much that the predominant issue was localized to the international scene. Of course, some of these, some Europeans may have had issues, but it was definitely not as prevalent as it was over in the US, Canada, etc., where it seemed like it was majorly affecting them. Obviously, the issue at hand here is a complete DRM lockout, not only of Game Pass titles, because of course, when you're game sharing, that is, as many have mentioned, is one of the predominant side effects and risks you take when you are game sharing with someone. If they get locked out, then you are locked out. If they don't pay their bill and they get turned off at Game Pass, you lose Game Pass too. It's just one of those things. And one of the risks you take on being a game sharing partner. However, when you physically own your own content, your own digital content, games you've purchased yourself, and that's getting locked out of it, that is an issue, I think, that needs to be rectified sooner rather than later. We spoke about this on our show as well earlier on, and Sean made a great point in stating for game purchases, digital game purchases, not physical, because we understand why they would need to do a handshake for that one every time, to ensure you have the disc inserted, which makes sense. Ensure that essentially you can install a game, hand the disc over to someone else, and still play it. That obviously can't happen. So they want to make sure you've owned the game, i.e., insert the disc. There's the DRM check. Digitally wise, however, you buy the content, you download it, you own that digital content. Initially, when you've downloaded it and it's on your console, it should have the handshake by DRM. Yep, that's now yours. And that's it. It should no longer check beyond if, for instance, if you get refunded, rescind that right. Other than that, beyond purchase and starting to play that game, you should never have a DRM check after that again. You've purchased that content. That content is digitally owned by yourself.
100%. That makes perfect sense. Yep.
There is no need to digitally check your ownership of a digital product, because you can't return that physical. There is no physical product to return.
Who said that? Sean
on my podcast.
That's absolutely
can I throw a dissenting
point.
Can I throw a dissenting thought into that?
Sure.
I agree with you on that, but as a person who has some experience, let's just say turning A into B, modifying A to B, if it doesn't do periodic checks at some point, people can modify. Once it's on the drive and it's been authenticated and it's on yours and DRM token is yours now, if it's known that it never checks again, people can then modify it after the fact. So there needs to be periodic checks throughout to keep the thing honest throughout. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's why they do it.
In what regard? Like in terms of
for instance, there's and I'll give you a perfect good example for that. There's a version of what do you call it? Bloodborne, that's 60 frames per second, right?
Okay.
That is not PlayStation's original version, but there is a version that is available. You can upload a patch to an unofficial patch to the official game to make it 60 frames per second. If they don't continuously periodically check, right, someone can slip that in there and now you're playing a modified game. Now that's a good modified game, but you can keep going further in that direction.
Now, can that also
keep checking?
I was going to say, at the same time, does that require the user to have the machine offline whilst they're playing the game with that patch?
Yeah, because that has been because obviously they don't want to be banned and all of that,
Yeah.
all that blah blah blah
Well,
blah.
there's
stuff.
the catch.
Yes.
There's the catch.
Yes.
So in terms of what I'm saying, in terms of obviously there's going to be always piracy. We know this on PC since day dot. When you download a program, you can find a hacked key for said program and have it for free. It's been the case since PC has really been born.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Yeah. But in terms of online users, should we say, because there's always going to be, even to this day, you can get cracked PS5s, Series X's, and everything, and play them offline. And you can play those games to your heart content. But in terms of those, the regular user that isn't on cracked machines, that form of DRM checking, I think, is most.
It's more annoying than yeah, I agree, 100%. All it does is penalize the good users. Yeah,
the initial handshake. I appreciate the DRM check-ins for instance, online free-to-play games where you've got DRM check-ins to make sure all your purchases and digital content and things are always permanently there, and you own said content, and all of these things that you've purchased for your free-to-play game, which is, God, you could have spent fortunes on all of this digital content. You might have to have repeated DRM checks for that, and that's understandable. But for single-player offline games, once you've purchased it digitally, a singular DRM check at point of purchase, once it's installed, no more after that. There is no need. There is literally not a need for it for a player. Online games you can understand because there is always a momentum. There is always something added to the game, i.e., new patch or update or skins or additional content, add-ons, expansions, etc. Further DRM checks for them to ensure purchase history is fine. That's understandable. But of course, this is all to do with copyright, all to do with ownership of the said product that you've got. So it is a like I say, unfortunately, it's one of those necessities we have to live with. But there's always copyright infringement laws. There's always been copyright infringement things. You've seen it since day dot. Even surprisingly, guys, even on the VHS tapes we used to buy years ago, even in the UK, we would have disclaimers saying the FBI would change
the FBI warning.
Yeah.
Remember that with the red band? Yeah,
I remember that.
Yep.
And you'd be so scared before you scrub through that porn. No, I'm sorry.
The FBI is watching.
The
question is, did you use Manscaped?
There it is.
That's what I want to know, because if you didn't, it's a scary forest, brother. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, exactly. Whack that bush, you'll be fine.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it is a necessary evil for copyright protection. And at the end of the day, you've got to admit there's two sides to this. People don't want DRM, but at the same time, when you know the people that have worked on these games and it's essentially protecting the property they've worked on and the revenue that they're trying to generate to make a livelihood in the first place, it is a necessary evil to ensure the livelihoods of the creators of these games that you love to play in the first place. So as much as you dislike these check-ins, they are a necessary evil. I think they just need to be done better. And there are many ways 100%. They can do that. It's just the case of implementing it to a finer degree. Now, Sony's by no means better at this. Surely, most recently, they've been getting plaudits for allowing their single player stuff to be played offline. Great, awesome. But GT7, prime example, down for 3 days due to DRM.
Yep, correct. Yeah.
So it is still there. It is still an issue. But again, even for a game that is online capable, if you've purchased that content and you're not using it online and your machine is offline and there is an offline single player mode, there should not be a DRM authentication. If you're playing that game and the internet goes down, it should just shoot you straight to the offline mode and say, you can't play online. DRM authentication issue, single player only. Sorry. That's what it should be, essentially.
Yeah. All right. I mean, listen. Let's bring in Mag. Mag, anything you want to add to this regarding the DRM situation? I mean, obviously, it is an issue. It's an issue that has plagued almost everyone at some point or another. It happened to be Microsoft's turn. A lot of people were locked out of their content. A lot of people were upset. again, didn't affect everybody because Dutch and I are prime example of that.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in Microsoft needs to be more proactive of so this doesn't happen again?
Well, first and foremost, it did not happen to me for the majority of the time that it was down, quote unquote. I was actually playing just fine, and I didn't even know what was going on. I happened to look at my phone, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then anyway, I turned it off, and then when I went back about an hour later, that's when I got hit with it.
Okay.
And then I wasn't able to access anything until the next day. I mean, I didn't
means
check.
you were already authenticated the first time. So when you went back to the back of the line, then
Right.
you got hit with that issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So well, of course, in retrospect, Vision's 2020, I had no idea. But yeah, I would have been like, you know what, I'll just leave it on. But I had no idea. So I turned it off, turned it back on. Yes. Then I was locked out, presumably for the rest of the night because I just went to bed. So I didn't think it was the end of the world. I know some people,
So you touched grass, as the kids say?
Yeah, well, you know what, Everborn? I was actually going to say that. I was getting really pissed with people on Twitter and stuff. I'm like, guys, can we calm down? That like
the minute you complain, everyone says you can go out. You should go out and touch some grass. You know what? We're grown men here. We've been touching grass for years.
Oh,
I cut my grass today, bro.
Hey, listen. I was touching a lot more than grass this weekend.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something.
Right.
And you wouldn't be touching grass if you buy Manscaped DBG 20% discount, free shipping. Anyways, all seriousness, here's the thing: is that it wasn't that big. I don't think that was, everything that Microsoft does is magnified times 1,000, right?
Of course it is.
You know how that is, right? Just like Dutch said, Sony went down, GT7 went down for 3 days for the exact same thing. And people were pissed about it, but no one was really talking about it, which of course leads me to believe that nobody bought Gran Turismo anyway, but that's a whole other point. The thing is here, I'm going to keep this in layman terms because I am not the tech guy. Okay. But I will say this from like I said, from the average person, which is about 90%, I would say, I'd be so bold as to say about 90% of people don't know anything about this. Present company included, me talking right now. All right. Like Asante said, though, it is a necessary evil. I understand what it's for and I understand why they do it. But just like Asante said, too, it needs to remain invisible. Now, the question I wanted to ask, and even it's just a rhetorical question, you don't have to answer it, but it is a funny thought, really. Would anybody have even cared if this didn't happen? All of a sudden, everybody's got the concern trolling and whatever else. But the thing is, it's been going on the whole time, but no one talks about it. No one complained about it because it's not in the way. Right. But the thing is, when it does lock you out of that content, especially like Dutch was saying, content that you own, okay, digitally, yes, he's 100% right. When it comes to a single player game or anything that you could be able to play offline, yes, it should be a one-time handshake and walk away. I understand, but you know what I mean? It's now, you now own it. What you do with that within reason is entirely up to you, as long as it doesn't interfere with the overall, situation with the game, with mods and cheating and all that kind of stuff, right? I understand the online stuff. Again, that's you have to be on there all the time. It's going to be on there all the time. They're going to be checking constantly, right? In order to not interrupt the community. I get all that, but here's the thing that's interesting is that when this comes down to something like Game Pass, for example, okay, let's say they eventually deal with the digital game situation and say, you know what, fine. If this happens again or whatever, at least you can play your single player games offline instead of owning a $700 brick that's just sitting there, right? At least you'll be able to access something if you're that desperate to be able to play a game. Now, here's the bigger thing, and this is the question I have, because I don't have the answer to this, believe it or not. My question is this: if their future is Game Pass, the big push is Game Pass. Almost all their cards, not all their cards, but a majority of their cards are in the future of Game Pass.
Correct.
This cannot happen.
Nope.
If that
especially
is where
if someone has a digital library and goes and starts buying stuff from Game Pass, this would be unacceptable.
Right. And you know how the public works, right? It's the mob mentality. The mob mentality is what? Eddie Murphy used to say it. What have you done for me lately?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The minute something doesn't work, that's it. People get pissed and they move on. You know what I mean? And they just that's it. Then all of a sudden you get bad press, whatever. You start losing mind share, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't take very long, folks. Look at what Netflix is going through right now. They lose 200,000 subscribers. Whoop-de crap compared to their 220 million subscribers. But guess what? It just changed their entire mindset to they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then now, you know what I'm saying? So it's very important that they need to get this under control, and it's that things like this cannot happen. It stays invisible, stays in the background, especially considering that their future is going to be online continuously with cloud, like you said, with cloud streaming, with Game Pass, with xCloud, with whatever that hockey puck that they're going to have on the TV coming up later in the year, stuff that they're working on with Samsung TVs. They're going to have to make sure. I understand there are bumps in the road, right? I know that you can't pave a road and it's smooth all the time. There's going to be bumps in there. But the thing is, you've got to be able, if this is your future, then there actually has to be absolutely no chance that it will go down. Otherwise, you will have issues and you will lose people, and people will lose faith in your product. And that's what you want to avoid. That's all I got to say about it.
Crispy, you want to add anything to the conversation before we move on to the monster topic?
Well, I just want to say this. There are ways to, kind of mitigate this entire situation, because at the least, if it's what you guys say, because you guys, like, as far as technical wise, like, are way smarter than me. But the fact is that I have things that, like, tie me in. So, like, I have, like, 2-factor authentication and stuff like that for, like, me signing into something. Microsoft hasn't really went that route yet. I use a PIN code when I sign into my account, and I don't know if that deters it, because I've had 0 issues ever, and I have somebody sharing with me, but I sign into my account, which is a Microsoft account, which is Crispy Mom at the end of the day, on my console, but I sign in using a PIN code. If that could deter it, I think most people would do that, because if that can authenticate for your where you're at, your console or whatever, maybe that's what's going on for me, because I've been sharing forever, and ever since I put the PIN code there, I've had zero issues. Like, the most I ever had is, like, maybe, like, like Gears 5 isn't, like, giving me a lobby quick enough or something. So then I just, shut it down and bring it back. You know what I mean? Because that's just what I know as, like, a gamer, not, like, saying I know the back end deal of all this stuff. What I can say this, Microsoft, you are a $2 trillion company. You have Game Pass. You have Microsoft Teams. I heard that was down at some points as well. Get your shit together, okay? You are a $2 trillion software company. All right. For us as a consumer, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And that is it. I don't care what involved. I'm going to tell you right now, from what I've seen, DRM is not the biggest issue. It's authenticating, which comes into a different realm, because if you really think about it, DRM is one thing, and authenticating that you're that person is a different thing. And I think that's where, like, the home console to not being home console type thing. And a lot of people brought up that PlayStation does it differently, which is correct. So I look at it and I say, all I know is all these companies have had issues at some point. I'll tell you right now, go sign into a Switch online. It is not fun.
No,
I'm just telling you, it's not fun ever. Okay. Now let's be serious though. At the end of the day, PlayStation's one entity, Nintendo's another entity. Microsoft is the software company. They are building software. They're literally building their bread and butter, which is Game Pass. I'm calling you out. Correct it in some way. I don't care if you tell people, hey, look, you got to put a pin in, and if the services are down, you're still going to have access to your stuff. Something like that. You could also, kind of clarify the fucking error codes instead of just sending an error code and saying, go here. Nobody wants to do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Apologize for the F-bomb, but
that's all right. That happens.
Let's be honest here, okay? You got to get it together, all right? And let's see what you come up with, because at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of innovation from Microsoft. It is time to bring some innovation to this problem that many companies have, and you might make money off of it at the end of the day. So look at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, folks, you've heard from the tech guys. You've heard from the people like me that really are not tech guys. And we all fall on the same page that Microsoft needs to address this. I believe they are currently working on a solution so this never happens again. And hopefully they will make that announcement. And maybe they don't have to make the announcement. Maybe this never happens again. I honestly don't know. But like I said, for some, it was a problem. For others, it wasn't. I think that at this point in the game, in 2022, they need to be better. And they will be better for sure. But folks, we got to get into the conversation that everyone has been waiting for. And that is, once again, Sony SIE PlayStation has doubled down on the quality of their AAA bombs diminishing, potentially going into a service like Xbox Game Pass. And where does this information come from? Well, Sony had their financial meeting, which I actually got a chance. It was 70 minutes. I listened to the whole thing. It was transcribed from Japanese to English through one of their translators, which was awesome. If you listen closely, folks, there's a Ghost of Tsushima show coming soon. They mentioned that, as well as, of course, the Last of Us, obviously, which is coming from HBO, which I thought was extremely interesting. But we got to get into the nitty gritty of what Sony's CFO Hiroki Totoki had to say, and I'm going to read verbatim. He says this: "I will refrain from making comments on the competitor's strategy. Our current thinking is to have development costs appropriate R&D investment for quality products, and that will improve the platform and also improve the business in the long run. AAA type titles on PS5, if we were to distribute that on a subscription service, we may need to shrink the investment needed for that, and that would deteriorate the first-party title quality, and that is our concern. So we want to make sure we spend the appropriate development costs to have solid products / titles to be introduced in the right manner." I have a lot of problems with this. All you have to do is look at what Game Pass delivered last year. Let's just say, for instance, Publisher of the Year, Microsoft, dropped bomb after bomb after bomb. You see one of them on your screen right now. It may be lacking in map, content, but you cannot take away from the fact that this is a AAA masterpiece on every level. Both single player and multiplayer are absolutely fantastic. They all work. You got Forza Motorsport, Forza Horizon 5, you got Psychonauts, you got Flight Sim. The list just goes on and on. And I know that everyone on the panel, everyone in the chat are going to have some big opinions regarding this. We're going to start first with Kay Asante, because we were talking, Kay, actually, before I get your opinion, I do got to catch up on a lot of the super chats. I've missed several of them. The first one of the night comes to us from Eagles fan 76. He drops a $2 super chat and he says, "Happy for the new reschedule, Boom. Wednesday is great." Well, thank you, brother. Definitely appreciate you coming on over. Sith Lord is a good friend of the program. He drops an outstanding $2 super chat and he says, "That was gold. I'm ordering Manscaped now." Well, thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. Drawn TJ, generous friend of the program, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Evening, guys. They need to get rid of DRM, I should say." Easy. I don't know how they do that.
Easy.
What's that?
I said easy with getting rid of the DRM, right? If you want to live in this digital world, DRM is a fact of life. They need to figure it out so these things don't happen or happen less frequently. And this is not to make any sort of excuses for them, but this shouldn't have happened. But it is very rare on their side, right? So if you got
it's apt that the Sega guy is saying this, because without DRM they turned into Dreamcast. You know what happened to that thing, right?
Well, my favorite console of all time, by the way.
Me too, by the way. Me too. Which is sad, very sad, right? Yes, DRM, you need it.
Well, listen, let me continue. Brett Bingham drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Good evening, everyone. Has anyone got Clippy in Halo Infinite?" I don't know what Clippy is. I'm not sure.
Old office.
You don't know what Clippy is.
You don't know Clippy from the 90s office?
Oh yeah.
With the eyes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, they put it in Halo.
You know what? I have not seen that. As much Halo as I've been playing. MBG drops an outstanding $1 super sticker. Doesn't leave a comment. Well, welcome, brother. Definitely happy to have you here.
But is that the NGB or MBG?
The muscle bound gamer? No, I don't think it would be him. To be honest with you, he is a PlayStation guy. Unlikely to show up to this show.
Yeah,
BMG is awesome. He jumps on my show all the time and drops awesome super stickers all the time. You'll know.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like I said, I used to talk with him all the time in DMs. It's it's a thing. Awesome. People talk, even though we have different opinions on consoles. But let's continue. Keasante, you and me call BS on this statement. I think that again. Very similar to what Jim Ryan said about a month ago regarding the same exact thing. And it leads me to believe that maybe Jim Ryan isn't really pulling the strings because, like I said, this is very reminiscent of what he said. And now we're hearing this from the CFO. It seems as if maybe the Japanese side of PlayStation is the one calling all the big shots, and they are very traditional. That is an absolute fact, and you have to understand that their traditionalism, that's a thing in Japan. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just the way they do business. And Game Pass is, a different way. It's a more progressive way. It is certainly a consumer-friendly way, unlike Sony, who is now charging $76.43 in New York for their first-party games. And I say nay, which is outside of it being a big AAA bomb, I'm not buying it.
Hey,
but
Boom, I just want to add a little factoid just because
please add the factoid.
I'm reading that book that I keep sending excerpts of in the private chat.
Yes.
Service game, The Rise and Fall of Sega. A big issue with them is that they were never able to recover from the loss of the Saturn, which Sega of America and Sega of Europe urged them not to put out when they did, but the Japanese side of the company would not listen to the other sides of the company. So I just thought it was interesting that you said that the headquarters may have different ideas than Jim Ryan actually has. And that is eerily similar to
even adding more flavors. Even adding more flavor to that, there are reports now that Nintendo is similar. Where in Reggie Fils-Aimé's new book, which I've actually started as well, it's actually pretty cool. You guys should check it out.
It pretty much worked out for them.
but still, the issue you're describing here is exactly the same there too. Where the Western CEOs are front facing. But the Eastern CEOs are the ones that pull the real strings, and it makes it very difficult for them to navigate sometimes. And as you're saying, Boom, it seems like that may be what's going on here. Yeah.
Well, let's get into your personal opinion regarding this, because when I read the quote, he's not specifically. First of all, he's a CFO of SIE. He's not bothered with console war shenanigans, folks.
Yep.
But every now and again, people within their umbrella tent do take shots. Now, I'm not saying that this is a shot. He specifically said, I'm not going to talk.
Yes, exactly.
About other people's business strategy. Yeah. And by rights, he's right to do so because
you also can't, right?
Well, So let's pick this apart just a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And I think this is going to be one of those rare things where myself and Mr. Everborn Saga are in rigorous agreement.
Be careful.
That's shocking. Hold on, by the way. Shocking.
I heard his opinion about 5 minutes after I gave you mine, and it was eerily similar. If you recall, Mr. Boomstick, this was a couple of days ago. I don't think you recall, Everborn. You weren't there, but we heard your opinion. Anyway, this is the CFO of the company. Chief Financial Officer. Check his role. He's the money man, right? And as all money men do, they speak in a money frame, right? Jim Ryan has told you, Sean Layden has told you, and now the money man is telling you. Yes, they're using big words, but you have to decipher the words they're using, right? First and foremost, he will not comment on the competitor's strategy. He can't, because he's incapable of. He, as the CFO, has not been in the position that Amy Hood is currently in. Because if he was in the position that Amy Hood is currently in, then he could comment on it because he's had experiences leveraging premium content for a subscription service. No one at Sony has ever had any experience doing that. And every time they tell you it can't be done, it's someone at Sony that tells you it can't be done. The company that's never done it before. So understand who's talking, right? They're not being shady, this and that. It's business, right? Both of them are business entities. Xbox is not being altruistic. They're not like, saying, oh, these guys will screw you. We're the ones who are trying to set you free. Yes, they're using those words, but realistically what's happening there is they have realized that in their dollars and cents, when they calculate it, they can use premium content in the short term for long-term gain, which is your continued subscription to Game Pass, right? And all of the various things they put into Game Pass helps fulfill that narrative, whether that be a third party or the first party or their day and date. So when you're listening to this CFO talk, decipher. I saw Xbox University on Twitter decipher pretty well. He did it in his usual fun way. But if you decipher in general, it's a very simple thing here.
Can I say it?
Go ahead.
Hashtag they ain't got it.
Exactly. That's all there is to it. We don't have the money.
In the most layman terms possible. Pay. Yes. If we had the money to take the short-term loss for the long-term gain, then we would have that conversation. But we don't have that money. So instead of telling you and being earnest about it, right, where I think that's just not their style, right? Their style is, I'm not trying to drive this Mercedes. I enjoy this. Bicycle that I ride every day. It helps my glutes. It's not to say that I ain't got the money to buy the
Camry. You got to give them
you know what I'm saying? This is the world they live in, right? You can never nothing that we see can be against you. Oh, I'm doing that on purpose. This is all by choice. What are you talking about, baby? Even though the wallet doesn't speak to it. That's literally what he is saying.
Hey, let me push back a little bit on you because I think he was being honest. I think he was being actually genuine. Like when you read the tea leaves, he was saying we don't have it in terms of
yes, exactly. But he's just not saying we don't have it. He's saying it's not possible.
For us,
even though it's for us, that part is missing.
But he said, I'm not talking about other people. I'm not talking about them.
Sure. Yes, you're right. He did say he's not commenting on the true. So he did
other
say
business practices.
Yes. So the thing is, in the context of Sony specifically, right? I think two things can be true at once. Microsoft, who has much deeper pockets, right? Can throw the best games in that service that have sometimes $500 million budgets, which is the lie about how much Halo Infinite costs, right? They can do that. They can buy Bethesda to get Starfield in there. They can buy Activision to get Call of Duty in there. Those games are quality. But if Sony wants to do day and date, they cannot. Or at least they don't believe they can take that risk. Because guess what? If Game Pass doesn't work, Microsoft is fine, right? If Sony goes and invests their usual, especially with their single-player games, people call them one and done, but I appreciate that because I'm a grown man with responsibilities.
I like the beginning, middle, and end.
Exactly. I don't like any game that's trying to keep me playing forever, right? Respect my time. So my thing is, because of the kinds of games that they are known for and have mastered today, and they've said they're working on service games, right? For them to invest 150 million, 200 million into the games to put them there, or they couldn't do it. But what they could do if they wanted to go day and date is lower the budgets on these things.
That's right. And that's their concern.
Right.
Yes.
In that sense, they would be lowering the quality because they couldn't afford to put a $200 million game in there because they ain't got it.
They ain't got it. Yes.
I'm not saying they broke, but they don't got Microsoft money.
You are absolutely right. They are being honest about we ain't got it. It's just they're saying it in a way that seems to suggest that it is not possible for that to be a thing that a company does.
No.
Even though it's definitely a thing that a company does.
I actually appreciate what this CFO said more than what Jim Ryan said.
Sure. Because Jim Ryan was a blatant.
in absolutes.
Mm-hmm,
The CFO talked about it in terms of money, which is we would have to lower budgets.
Yeah,
and
that's
to me,
that's how we could make it
sense.
work.
And lowering budgets for us means lowering the quality, and I can get behind that idea. Now, but what Jim Ryan said was just like inherently by being in the service, the games don't have quality, and that's the issue that I have a problem with. And the people that are running with that because it is not Granny's peach tea. If anyone is a fan of the Snyderverse,
yes, not Granny's peach tea. Yes, that's a good Lex Luthor quote. I like that. Look, the bottom line is this. What we're going to do is we're going to back end this conversation once we've cycled through everyone and their opinion, because like I said, I honestly call BS. I think that there is a way for Sony to still make money and have a service that's comparable. I don't think it's going to be as good as Xbox Game Pass. Listen, like I said, outside of cloud saves for my PlayStation 5. The only reason why I would have their service is for that. All of their games that are in there, I've beaten. I buy all of their games, so I don't need their service. I'm certainly not going to pay $18 a month to play games that are not going to get advanced. Like when you play a game, an old game on Xbox that's backwards compatible, a lot of the times the FPS has been doubled, or the shade, there's shades in there that you haven't seen before. There's all kinds of bells and whistles for said game. You're not going to get any of that. You're going to play a PlayStation 1 Twisted Metal, and it's going to look like a PlayStation 1 Twisted Metal. That's not worth $18. It still blows my mind, folks, that their top tier service is $3 more than Xbox Game Pass. And there are people, and I'm not going to name names because we don't do that on this show, that are actually defending spending $76.43 on a game. Well, we're supporting the devs. I have to give them my money. You are a boob if you think that way. I'm going to tell you that right now.
And I don't know.
I made a video about that.
I don't know if this is on your list, but in that same statement, didn't they talk about going multi-plat?
I listened to the 70 minutes. There were some parts that I don't recall hearing that.
Because I saw that quote.
I know Jim said it many times.
No, but I mean recently, as of yesterday or today.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, I'm going to find it.
I'll put it to this way. We will definitely come back around to that topic if, in fact, it is one. Dutch, you also have a problem with this statement, and I really want you to break it down and get your honest opinion on it, because, like I said, both companies have their strengths and weaknesses, right? And Microsoft is led by the way it treats its customer base. Forget about them interacting. Forget the fact that Sarah Bond's out there, talking with people, or Phil Spencer's out there, or Aaron Greenberg, or any of them, Larry Herb or Rubes. They're out there, on the socials talking with people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the general. Let's just keep this to the customer base. No one does it better than Microsoft, and they're making money, folks. If you wanted to dumb down how much they're making, let's just say for shits and giggles that they're at 30 million, right? Well, and again, you can go high, you can go low, but I'm gonna dumb it down to 30 million subscribers, and we're not gonna say top tier 15 or bottom tier 5. We're gonna say it's $10. Everyone's paying $10. That's $300 million a month that they're making. That money is obviously going into development and resource management, and they are now turning that money around to bring bigger games, bigger budgets, bigger AAAs, more A's to it. Sony could find that same success. There is a reason why they're doing this. I don't know if it's because they can't keep. Remember, they have just as many studios. I don't think they have 23, but they have a ton of studios that could be making games for this service. Dutch, what are your opinions on this? Do you call BS as well?
Yeah, there's certain sides to the statement that that I agree on, and other sides I don't. So the first one, of course, primarily that I agree on is, of course, not speaking on another competitor. You can't do that because, as mentioned before, you're not in the same position as um, your namesake, should we say, on the opposite side. So, although they're in the same company position, i.e., CFO. They're not going to be able to speak about the same thing because they are seeing entirely different accounts and entirely different financials. They know what they can spend, they know what they can't spend, they know how they're going to make it back, and they know their roadmap to make it back. What we're looking at here, in a financial sense, is something called ROI, which is return of investment, and how they deem the ROI or determine which the ROI is going to take in order to get back. Specifically, I work on an ROI because I work in the energy industry myself. So ROI is usually when it comes to renewable resources. You put, as a brief example, you put solar panels in. It costs you £10,000. How long is it going to take before that solar panel is paid for itself? That, in a sense, is ROI. Likewise, for when you're investing in a video game, if you are spending 100 million, 200 million on creating the game, you spend another 10, 20, 30 million advertising that game. You then cover the cost of staff, utilities, etc. Anything that costs running the studio, creating the product, advertising the product, so on and so forth, is all to do with the outlay on the game. So although what you would class as development cost might have cost 100 million, total cost might have been closer to the double that mark when you counter everything into the spend on a particular title in its launch. The ROI for a particular game like that, if it's, for instance, the Last of Us games, which generate kind of upwards of 10, 20 million copies sold, you're probably going to get the ROI back on that within a year, 2 years, 3 years max. The issue I've got here is the investment amount that he's speaking of. If they're only investing 300 million across all studios, that doesn't sound like a lot of money on investment to me for first party studios and creating products going forward. Now, when you're talking about titles and how much they cost to produce, specifically AAA ones, they're in the ballpark anyway of anywhere between 100 and 200 million dollars now to create in the first place. So 300 million doesn't sound like an awful lot when it comes to actual cost for development or investment on future developments. So the ROI turnaround for getting that back is very minimal when it's spread across everything. Then you've got to look at the other investments they've made in or overcompensations, and such as the Bungie purchase. Obviously, overcompensating staff to the tune of what would be equational to about $1 million per staff member for that purchase. When you're talking about strange financial decisions, that would have been one of them. I think quite a lot of us have spoke on that before. Overcompensation on purchase, specifically per staff head. But then when we look at the comparison versus Game Pass and what they're doing, it's a long-term strategy. Microsoft knew initially that it's not going to return on investment straight away. It's going to be a long-term plan. The aim is to generate as many users into the service as physically possible, as quickly as possible. That is going to get the return of investment sooner rather than later. If they were to, for instance, put a lot of games in the service, not really invest in it, not do all of these short-term deals in order to get people into it, not take a financial loss, which is what they had to do in order to get that service up and running in the first place. And that's a lot of businesses have to do that. It's again, as we mentioned, this phrase, a necessary evil in order to create business, in order to generate business and grow business. You have to take a loss. You have to invest to generate. So in order to get that particular service up and running and financially profitable in the first place, you're going to have to take a loss in order to get that thing to the position it needs to make a profit.
Hey, Dutch.
Yes.
To your point, and I think a lot of the Twitter CFOs, they spend a lot of time focusing on ROI, right?
Yep.
But what they're not, at least I don't see what's not focused on enough is KPI, which is the key performance indicators. They tell you when you may expect to see that ROI. So that will give you the time frame. And I think if people started to look at that and look at trends, this is what these CFO guys pay attention to.
Exactly.
So.
And that's what I was mentioning. So even though it is linked, obviously it's linked to ROI, but it is the time frame. So like I say, it could be that you see that the time frame on profit making within 3 years. You could see it within a year. You could see it within 6 months, as we've seen with some mega hit games. Elden Ring, for instance, 13.5 million in its first month. That was
ridiculous, dude. Ridiculous.
Undoubtedly an ROI, considering the Sekiro only did something like 2 million in its first 10 days, and 5 million over its life cycle, and that was a multi-platform game as well. So for this one to do double that obviously the return of investment for development on that was recouped almost momentarily. I think their major concern from what it sounds like is they don't believe that their customers would buy the games whilst it's in the service. And I think if you have a look at the actual trends for Game Pass, and this is, of course, they can't lie. People seem to think they can lie on investor calls and they can lie when they make these financial statements, but you cannot lie statistical facts within financial statements because you will get heavily penalized. You can't do it. It's illegal to lie in these. Can
I just stop you right there for a hot second? Because folks, breaking news. Kay Asante just dropped this in, folks, and Spider-Man 2018 coming to Xbox sooner than you think, according to GamingBolt.com. And I quote, "Going forward," this is Sony's CFO, "going forward, we aim to grow our gaming business by strengthening our first-party software and deploying that software on multiple platforms," says Sony.
I told you.
So the question is...
I know why, too.
The question, I mean, we're going to tackle this because obviously we're going to... Now that we have this piece of information, because I didn't have it in front of me, this is pretty damn interesting. Wow. The one thing I don't expect God of War on Xbox. I'm going to be honest with you.
No.
But I can actually see a Sony developed game, i.e. Spider-Man / Wolverine. Spider-Man 2018 could very well come to the Xbox based on what that statement is. I didn't make the statement.
To be fair, they could make that statement and they could mean Destiny 2. Because it's technically theirs.
Yeah, it's a vague statement. It is a vague.
It is a vague, but it's a
it completely destroyed what the other dude said, which is why, dude, like, what are they doing over there? Like, what are they doing? Are they communicating at all? Like, come on.
No, it's like a million different people are coming up with ideas. You know what they're doing this for?
It's like Mag yelling over me, "Hey, motherfucker!" Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't get it.
Come on.
I think
they could just mean PC, PS4, and PS5. That counts as multiple.
Yeah, and mobile. Don't forget mobile. However,
right, mobile. Yeah, that could be multiple platforms right there.
However,
but it still raises questions.
Well, here's the question that it raises for me: a service game, right? A lot of service games are going to depend on how many bodies you can get in.
Right, player base, of course.
So,
number one factor.
Who's to say that these service games, and again, starts with Destiny. They just bought that one, right? That's an existing IP. Right? We see MLB The Show, right? That's already on Xbox. So if you want to get people spending money on those microtransactions and you want that large user base, it does behoove you, maybe not for God of War or Spider-Man, but for some of these service games, maybe that Jade Raymond game.
Well, let's think about this for a second, okay? if Sony could release God of War, could release Spider-Man because they want to double dip. And they know there's people that just have Xbox. Think about the million people that still have a 360. They don't have a freaking PlayStation. Get out of here. They're still playing on 360.
Look,
So
think
about it.
Again, is it likely that you're going to find a PlayStation first-party game on an Xbox? Well, a couple of years ago, you would have said nay, but last year, MLB The Show, which is developed by Sony first party,
And
is
it
now on
might have had
And the only people that say
success.
nay are ponies.
Oh,
interesting.
I was
gonna say,
I couldn't resist. It was right there.
That's very good. Listen, real
When we're
quick,
talking
Viper
about-
XT in the chat
on.
drops a very generous and outrageous $20 super chat. And he says this: it's not about quality concerns, it's about their games being mostly single player. You can sub for a month, beat the game, unsub, and wait 6 months for the next one. They need games that maintain an audience before going day one. Absolutely. They need to get into the multiplayer realm, which is what they're doing. They're investing in 10 gas games as a service that are going to, I mean, again, I can't say I still don't think those games are going to be in this service, to be honest with you. But until someone's got to prove me wrong. But please continue, Dutch, with your point.
Yeah, so I mean, we've just to kind of go on from there as well. We've covered this in previous shows as well when we talk about how he mentions their investment would have to lower, and as a kind of a byproduct that would lower quality. That's always screamed a bit of a weird one to me, because that would be kind of saying that the quality of the studio is determined only by money and not by the quality of the staff and the developers. Surely the staff, the quality of the games that are coming out, according to the staff that you've got, which are extremely talented, wouldn't drop based on the amount of investment that you're giving them studios. If you're saying we're not investing any more than what we already have, then you're still going to get amazing games.
100%. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Like, that shows kind of a lack of confidence in the development studios than it does on and more. We're only creating this because we're pumping £200 million into a game, not because the developers themselves are actually capable of creating amazing things. Which is, again, it to me just screams like they don't have the utmost faith in their development studios to be able to crank out amazing work without hundreds of $millions of investment every time.
You know what? The one thing that no one has said or does even discussed is that I think the issue at hand with Sony is that their games take 5+ years to come out. And I'm not saying that the quality is the quality. You can't deny what they put out is good games. Now, maybe it's not your kind of game. I hear you if that in fact is the case. They're my kind of game. I love what Sony puts out. I don't mind waiting 5 years, but maybe that might be their Achilles heel, to believe it or not, is that they just cannot put out enough content, which is why they went from we're going to be organic to we're going to buy up everything we can afford.
And to that point as well, I think this generation, latter into the generation, and maybe into next, you'll see a little bit of a shift from the first party studios in PlayStation, and by that I mean the studios now beginning to work on multiple projects as opposed to one project, as we've seen in prior generations, i.e. Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica. They release a singular game pretty much a generation, if not one at the beginning, one at the end. They don't release, like, for instance, in the 360 era, we had several Gears of War. We had on the Xbox One era, we had 2 Gears of War, plus the Gears of War kind of definitive edition. So we had 3 titles come out there. Again, on Halo front, we had several Halos across the generation. And it's same with Forza, multiple. But now we've got each individual studio working on multiple projects.
Mm-hmm.
Sony's issue primarily has been that the fact that I think as great as their games are, again, like I say, once they're out of that synchronized kind of loop of dropping games into a certain frequency, and to a certain schedule point, it then kind of looks as if it's kind of a little bit barren at times, because even though they've got amazing games, their studios are focused on one particular title at a time. Insomniac are a complete different kettle of fish because they're working on multiple projects.
Yeah, they got at least 4 projects going on themselves. Yeah.
Naughty Dog now we know have got multiple projects on the go. Sony Santa Monica have now got multiple projects on the go. In previous generation, they had a singular project. So with this generation, we can see all the first-party studios across Sony now working on multiple things. So as the generation goes on, we're likely to see multiple outputs from them. But the previous gen was a different kettle of fish. As great as it was, the vast majority of their killer games came at the tail end of the gen, which is where they got their amazing generation sequence from. And of course, they knocked it out of the park in terms of selling units, thankfully, to Xbox's ball slip. Pause.
Man,
I was
Steve.
thinking that as well.
Didn't want to be the first, yeah.
But yeah, but on that front, of course, it's I don't understand the why he assumes that if they put it into a service, it would automatically degrade quality. That wouldn't be the case. The development studios, the developers themselves, are highly capable of putting out awesome content for the same investment level you've been giving them all the time. And if you're talking about the investment level of, we're giving 300 million to our first-party studios in order to create these awesome games, 300 million across all the studios isn't a grand deal, considering you're forking out £1 billion here and there for other random investments. You would expect them to invest more in their first-party studios for future titles than they are on these other things. For instance, putting in almost $1 billion into esports companies, or putting in $1 billion into Epic Games, or X, Y, and Z. Them things aren't generating your profit. So
Dutch, can I ask you a quick question regarding that? Because we did have when what's his name, when Sean Layden spoke about it, didn't he speak basically to what you're describing now, where it's a choice that they've made? And remember, he talked about VidRibbon and back when he used to do it, and it used to be about creativity and blah blah blah. He basically said it was a choice that if in order for them to continue moving the ball forward, the budgets would have to get lower and they'd have to depend more on creativity rather than keeping the budgets the way they are right now. But it's just that they're choosing not to do so. So why do you think they're just that the idea of, hey, maybe make it cheaper and then focus more on quality is not something they talk about? It's always about the assumption that it has to be more expensive. Otherwise, it's crap.
Yeah, from what I can gather on the CFO's front is that they are wanting the return, and this going back to this return of investment rubbish all over again. But they are, by the sounds of things and by the look of things, they're wanting that ROI quicker rather than saying, okay, we know we're going to get something that's going to be successful. It's going to probably generate more money in the long run, but what we want is a quicker return, not a better return.
You know, here's my issue. My issue at hand is, listen, he's a money guy, right? The guy is making probably 7 figures. He knows a lot more than just me, the dumb podcaster. But here's the problem. I know basic math. And the one thing I do know about basic math is if you put a bunch of numbers together that equal one other number that is, let's say, your video game, and you're getting that monthly from your said subscriber, you're eventually going to be making more money than the initial game sales. Let's just say, for shits and giggles, that they put out 3 AAA bombs per year, right? That's wonderful. But if they had a bunch of people, again, maybe they're the casual audience, maybe they're the non-gamers, maybe they're the hardcore that sign up for their $18 a month subscription service, because guess what? These games are day and date included in there. If you start adding these numbers up, they are eventually going to equate much more than what you would get on the single sale. So this is what I personally don't understand. And the quality issue I find to be absolutely ridiculous, much like to what Dutch said. So wait a second. You're telling me that if you put this game that's quality AAA, somehow or another, the same team that made it is going to diminish its quality. That, to me, again, I don't agree with it, considering what you see Microsoft doing with Xbox Game Pass. But I think at the end of the conversation, it all comes down to, as simplistically as the way Kay Asante put it, they just ain't got it.
Well, you see and there's another thing as well. If you have a look at the cost of the subscription service, and this is just putting it into simple terms, you've got 40 million PS Plus subscribers currently.
Right.
Okay. If you manage to turn all of those into 18.99 subscribers, all of them, you're talking the best part of 2/3 of $1 billion a month.
Yeah, a
for
month, by the
subscription
way.
service,
Yeah.
a month.
That's what Colt Eastwood was talking about today. Did
Yeah.
you see that? He broke it down, and he was he turned. I think he used 25 million subscribers at
Yeah.
the same price as Game Pass Ultimate, which is essentially what the mid tier for PlayStation. You
Yeah.
put them in there, it's $4.6 billion a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you're doing it in the mid bracket, and say be nice, it's still $500,000
That was the
a
mid,
month.
Dutch.
A month.
Yeah.
So to say that would lose, how would you lose it if you're getting 500 million a month? Like, I don't understand the thinking behind this. You just look at the basic figures.
They
and it
need
doesn't-
to
it
entice
doesn't
people. Look,
correspond.
I'm gonna
Well,
tell you this right now.
how many
I
AAAs are
think
they
that this
releasing a year?
service is going to be a flop. That's just my
I just
opinion.
think they don't have confidence in what they're putting out in terms of services. They have confidence in the games, but they don't have confidence in a strategy perspective. I don't think they're confident in the strategy they're going for at the minute.
So can I jump in here for a second?
Please, by all means.
So the thing is this, right? I think we all believe here that the Game Pass strategy is going to work, right? I can assume that, and most of the people listening probably believe that. But we can't discount the fact that this has never been done before in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was the Sega channel. Look it up. If you know, you know. But the point is, I think it's totally fine for Sony to, basically do what Disney and Warner Brothers did, which was wait for someone to prove the model. Right? Now, I think their content and their titles are popular enough that when they do get there, and so long as they don't wait too long, and I just don't think that time has passed yet, but so long as they don't wait too long, I think they will be fine. And it seems to me, if you just 30,000-foot view, that they are taking the necessary steps to position themselves to when that time comes, they can flip a switch, right? So the purchase of Nixxes was not an accident, right? Part of the reason Microsoft can do day and date games is because they can fall back on the Steam sales. That's part of it. It's not all of it. It's part of it, right? But Sony's development pipeline is not set up because they haven't done this work yet. It's not set up for day one PC launches, but they're working towards it. We're seeing the deltas shorten for every PC port, right? And they're moving to a place where they can do day and date on PC, and that's part of it. They're going to move to a place where they have their own PC store, right? That's another piece of all of this. They've signed contracts to work with Azure for the cloud gaming piece of it. All that's coming, and by the time Microsoft trains the customer, the same way they train them on achievements and paying for Xbox Live and all those things, Sony can come in as long as they're ready. And Jim Ryan is slowly putting the pieces in place for whenever he can convince the overlords at Sony headquarters to say, hey, we can do this. And guess what? Bungie's there. Bungie's not only expert at multiplayer games, they're experts at multi-plat games. Do not forget that. Right? So between Nixxes and Bungie and all the studios they're buying, because you don't buy all those studios unless you want to put them in some kind of service one day, they're leading up to it, but they want to make as much money as they can now because they can't just jump straight in the pool the same way that Microsoft has. Because again, hashtag, they ain't got it. Right? So you make them
before Everborn. They want that. Right now, they want the return immediately. They don't want to wait right this second. They don't want to wait for that return like Xbox did and could. Xbox did and could say, we'll take the initial hit because we want and believe in what we're going to put forward. Sony right now are saying, no, what we want is a return immediately because we want that cold
but
hard
again,
right now.
It's a different conversation. It's very easy to disrupt when you're in last place, right?
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it
Yeah.
is, right? Apple, yeah, they had the iPod, sure, but what percentage of the PC market is the Mac? Apple almost went out of business, right? Yeah, they existed, but because you can take bigger swings when you're not risking a market that you're not the top at. It's very hard to convince people that are making money hand over fist in a proven business model to throw that away. Now, should you have the foresight lest you be left behind? Absolutely. But I just don't think that Sony has reached, I don't think that we have reached a place yet where it's too late for Sony to make this decision. And I think they're biding their time well, and they're going to let Microsoft, as they usually do, run up the hill, take all the arrows, train all the customers, because I promise you, Disney Plus doesn't get to 100 million so fast if customers weren't already trained to pay for subscriptions. And Netflix did that work. Right. So I think Game Pass is going to do that work in the gaming industry. And then all the Johnny-come-latelys will come and they'll be able to just coast off of content. But you can't do that right now.
Damn, I love that, bro.
Disney
I
as
really
well.
do.
Oh, go on. Sorry. I was just going to say quickly, speaking on Disney as well, the good point about that is the initial inception of Disney Plus did not have all of these unbelievable shows that we've got now.
Right.
It didn't have Moon Knight. It didn't have Loki. It didn't have all of these unbelievably
Mandalorian
high-quality
specifically.
things
Yeah.
until it got into that position where it was feasible to do so. So you have to start somewhere. That's what Disney did. It started somewhere. It got into a position where it had 90+ million subscribers, and now it's pumping out content that rivals the films that you go and pay.
What did they have?
That is exactly what
IPs.
Netflix did. It built up slowly, and now it's able to do it.
They had
And
the
that is-
IPs, Dutch. I'm telling you, the
exactly.
IPs matter.
It did,
That's
you're
why
right.
I say Sony's got the IPs. They could
It
do
has
it.
the IPs.
They
It
could
just doesn't want to put
absolutely
it in.
compete in this realm,
Of course
dude.
it
They
could.
really
Of course
could.
it could.
And that's what concerns me, because once again, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and I don't understand it. Like, take one, trajectory, line in the sand, draw the line in the sand for yourself and say, I'm not going to go over that line. You know what? They could double dip. Like I said, you could go to Xbox and say, you know what? We're going to sell God of War 2018 from 4 years ago. We already made our money on PlayStation. Here you go, Xbox. We're going to sell it at $70. They could double dip like that. And I would probably play it because I just want an Xbox. I love my Xbox controller. That's what I play with. Okay. It doesn't matter where it is. You know what I mean? Like that's what I play with because I'm familiar with it. I know it. I love it. It feels very good. Like my hands don't cramp up. Dude, I played PlayStation 2, bro. My hands are cramped so bad because I'm sitting there with my
it's those side-by-side sticks
ass,
for sure. Yeah.
Or down, gotta make sure everything is cleaned up, if you're gonna play with that, because it's just like, oh, you're just basically looking at both your thumbs like moving the sticks, and you're just like, this hurts at a certain point because it's not natural. Feels natural with the Xbox controller. So there's a lot of people like that. Not only that, think about Netflix, 200 million subs. They're worried about 20 million, which is interesting. But that's for the investors. You look at that and you say, that's for the investors. And, this is right at the point where Ozark just came to its final season. They got probably half that back right away. You know what I'm saying? So they released that strategically. I feel like that's where Sony can't stay in one lane and just do it. I think the
strategy they'll probably look at the strategy more the more these first party titles start to hit PC. I think the more they see that return of investment, the more they see those games being unbelievably successful on a second platform outside of their own, the more they'll say, I think now is the time. We've got a lot of traction now on PC. We've got a lot of traction on PlayStation. We have that user base there. Let's flick that switch. I think it's going to take a lot of these first party games on PC performing well for them to change that mindset.
Well, there's one other aspect to this, right? I think it's market pressure and conditions, right?
Yes, we're actually gonna get into that. What changes Sony's mind? But let me bring in Mag into the conversation. Mag, you obviously you know for a lot of reasons you love Sony. You're like me. You like the single player, story driven type of game. You do. You're a fan of it. We both are. But you're also not a fan of $105.
No, I'm not
per game. And you are really not so much the exception, but I would dare say the rule for someone that would invest $18 a month or your $120 per year if first party games are in there because of the inherent value for you personally.
Right.
Do you, like many people on this panel, call BS with the quality potentially deteriorating, as it was quoted in saying, for their quality games to be dropped into a Game Pass-esque service?
Yeah, see, here's the thing with that whole statement. I read it several times, and let me get into this. I really believe that maybe, just maybe, this guy was slightly, I'm just saying maybe, because I'm not 100% sure what he's thinking. I think he may be slightly misinterpreted by a lot of fans and media as to what he was actually saying. I think he just actually was saying that they just don't have the money to put into that, right? That they can invest into that, right? But I think what happened is, first of all, before I even get into that, when he said that he's going to, they said they're going to refrain from making comments about their competitors. Well, sure you're not, because you're not in the same league. Let's face it. You're not even in the same ballpark. You're not even playing the same game. You can't. You're getting curb stomped in that department, and therefore they know. So that was a smart way of starting it, of saying, "Hey, listen, we're not going to even bring up Game Pass, because who else could they be talking about, right?"
You're saying we're not going to talk about Bruno, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Exactly. Talk about Bruno. I love that song.
Stop it. Oh, why do you keep doing it every week? Come on now.
I love that song, man. It's a good song. Anyways, in all seriousness, they know that they just simply can't afford it. Okay, that's all there is to it. And they're not willing. Well, maybe they can afford it, but they're not willing to put in that money up front. Now, here's the thing. What I don't like is that how the fans and the media have interpreted this. I think that when Sony says that they want to delegate, that they would have to delegate less money to the game, which would in turn, of course, lower the quality. Okay, he's not wrong. He's not wrong by saying that. He's not saying anything negative about that. But the problem is those people misinterpret what he's saying and saying that, a subscription service has lower budgets, therefore lower quality, or as the idiots I deal with on Twitter say, half-baked games, right? And so when they say things like half-baked games, and so they're interpreting what he's saying as, you see, subscription service means less investment, lower quality games, which of course is the biggest pile of bullshit I ever heard, because as far as I can see, Xbox Game Pass has the best third-party AAA games in there, the best first-party AAA games in there. They had the Publisher of the Year 2021. All those games were on Game Pass.
Yeah.
So what are you saying, right? And I'm not saying it's the Sony. I'm not saying it's that guy. Okay. I'm saying that that's the fans and the media trying to spark something that's not really there. Yeah, they shouldn't have even said. Well, they had to say something, because when the big dog is barking and everybody's going, guys, can you say something about the big dog, or at least try to compete with him? They're gonna have to say something and come forward with it. Now, here's the other thought. I got into it. Now, the thing is, I'm not upset about that situation. If they don't want to put their first party games, let's say single player games or whatever, into the service, fine. That is your choice. And this is where I got into it. By the way, I got into it with Mooch today about it. Okay. And we got into it a bit where he's, I was saying to him, I said, listen, I agree with one thing. Sony could do whatever the hell they want with their business. That's fine. But it's up to me as a consumer on whether I wish to purchase said product. You can present me the product. I'm not going to tell you how to do your business. You do your business however you want. It's up to me as the as the consumer whether I choose to partake in said product, right? So that's the thing. So there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how they want to run their business, great. If I don't want to buy it, I don't buy it. If I buy it, I buy it. That's all entirely up to me. But here's the thing, and this is where I got into it with Mooch. He says, then just wait for a sale. If the net games are not going to be there, just wait for a sale. And I said, I'm glad you brought that up, Mooch. I said, because it's been a year and a half, 18 months. Demon's Souls is still $105. So I went to the store just to look this up, right? Returnal is $105. Ratchet and Clank is $105.
Ridiculous at this point.
Demon Souls is 18 months old. $105. These are games that have been out for minimum a year. So I asked Mooch, I said, so Mooch, how many years should I wait for the discount? Should I wait to the end of the generation when I don't give a shit anymore? Excuse me?
Yeah.
When I don't care anymore?
Oh, man.
Right? That is ridiculous. The fact that it's 18 months later and they're still charging $105.
And please explain to the class of nearly 400 people, by the way. If you're enjoying the show, hit the like button. If you're finding this channel for the first time, consider subscribing. Why do you go to the Sony store? How come you don't go down to the mom and pop grop shop and get it for $30?
Here's the thing. I have the digital PS5.
There you go.
What's happened is they've handcuffed me. By the way, Marciano Lowen in the chat there, 105. The games here in Ontario, Europe, Australia, basically everywhere outside of the United States are paying upwards of $89.99. That's $90.
I don't know why he's clowning you, Mag. He's also in Canada. That's my boy from way back. He's also in Canada. So I don't know why. And he's a game developer of all things. So I don't know why he's
$90 plus 13% or whatever, just 13 or 14% tax up in Ontario. So we're paying. So if you want to split hairs, it's like $103.78 or something like that. So it's just a smidge under 104, not a 105. My bad. So it's about $104 for every PS4 game, because you can't walk away from taxes, folks. All right, as much as you'd like to. But anyways, the thing is, the point is that now I lost my train of thought. What I was getting at is that I got the digital PS5s, therefore I'm handcuffed by the situation, right? And you know what the thing is? Those scumbags know that I'm handcuffed by it, because there's nothing else I could do other than to sell the damn thing and go get a disc version. Because sure, I can go to GameStop and probably buy that same game for $30, right? The disc, which I may just absolutely do. I may just trade it in with somebody. I don't know if I could find a way to do it. I would do that. But you know, the thing is, there's one way around it. You could game share with somebody. So at least you get 50% off. So I'm only paying like $52 a game, which wouldn't be that bad, actually. That's reasonable. Anyways, the point is that's where I got into it. I said, well, if you're not going to put it in the subscription service, that's fine. But if you're screwing people on the other end, you're basically screwing them all around. Where is the advantage is what I'm trying to ask. Where is it? Where is the advantage when you have one way sucks and the other way sucks? Basically, what you're doing is you're handcuffing your consumers. Yes.
Real quick, did you hear about the patent that was recently discovered of turning
very interesting that you bring that up? Yes,
I will also say that world was the world of OG Xbox One with the TV that they stopped that everybody pushed back on.
Yes,
that's when they introduced this, and now they're going forward with it again. In that world, the Mag, who has a digital only console, could go to GameStop, buy the cheap version of the physical console, and then convert that to a digital license, and then could play that on his digital.
And Xbox console. Is doing that. That is correct.
Yep.
And that's what Xbox is doing.
Very interesting.
Just putting that out there real quick.
That is very interesting.
Yes.
I hope you guys are paying attention in the chat to this, okay? That's a pretty interesting thing. Now, here's the thing. Sorry, this one last thing I was going to say. This might be a little bit more conspiratorial, but it's just a thought. Okay, it came to me when Everborn was talking about the single-player games and stuff like that. Is it possible that maybe the reason why that they don't put their first-party games. Now, I could see them putting, like, let's say their service games in there. So what I'm seeing is, like, let's say Bungie in the future is making service games, and there are other developers are making games as a service, whatever, later on. I could see all that, right? And that I could see going into the subscription service. Now, the thing is, the single-player games, let's say they're anywhere between, I don't know, anywhere 10 to 40 hours each, right? You put those in there, people would wait until 1 month. They would wait till all those games are released. And let's say they were on a subscription service. You could blow through their entire catalog in 3 weeks. And I think that maybe is that possible? You know, is it possible that that's one of the reasons why these games aren't going into a subscription service? Because they know people will do something like that. Like, for example, Netflix, wait till the last season of Ozark comes out, and then Stranger Things and whatever the hell you're watching. You could subscribe to Netflix for 1 month and watch all the damn shows in one shot, right? And then cancel, right? Instead of having to come back. Like, for example, the Disney, the Disney way of doing things, which, of course, they're going back to the old school by doing it weekly, so they keep people tuning in. So I'm wondering, is that a possibility as to why they wouldn't also put their single player in there, knowing that people are willing to wait a long period of time to play these games, and then they just, subscribe for 1 month, you pay your $20, and off you go, and you play all the first-party titles, and ba-boom. And Sony gets $20 out of it. So maybe that's a possibility too. I'm saying that's a little more conspiratorial, but just a thought. But anyways, either way, they need to improve something. I don't know what it's got to be. If they're not going to do the subscription, then they got to be a hell of a lot more lenient on their first-party prices, especially games that have been out for minimum a year to a year and a half. It's utterly ridiculous. But other than that, do what you got to do. Because when it comes to that subscription,
I just want to address something in the chat because he's posted a couple of questions, and I don't want to think that we're ignoring him. Chris Singleton in the chat. He's obviously he's a Sony fan, and dude, welcome to hang out with us. We welcome all and any. If you're a fan of gaming, this is the place for you. You're welcome. He simply asks, "That's any service. Why is this a knock on Sony?" The knock on Sony is the value proposition that a lot of Sony fans seem to look past or snub their nose at. Microsoft has been known as the abundance of games that are filler. Like that people love to say that. Well, it's Microsoft's games, they're filler, right? They're not really AAA. They're not Sony quality. You were right up until a point. They were, dying on the vine, some of their games. They weren't great. But they made monster investments to make sure that when you see Avowed and Fable and Ninja Theory's next game and Compulsion's game, and you just pick your favorite one of 23 developers, you're going to be like, damn, I got to get an Xbox now because I don't want to miss out. I want to be a part of the conversation. And what's interesting there is that if it turns out that the Xbox is, let's say, for instance, your second console, which it may very well be, there might be a lot of Sony players that are like, hey, listen, at this point, they're doing some great things. I can't ignore Microsoft anymore. Before I could, with the Last of Us 2s and the God of Wars and Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, the list goes on and on with great games that they have. But at some point, there is going to be a time where you're going to look over at the other side of the yard and be like, man, that grass is kind of green. I got to get involved. And you can get involved for a very, very affordable price that isn't going to put you and your family out of your house. And I talk about, again, it's $300 now. I've seen it as low, and I'm talking about the Series S, as low as $227. Just imagine spending $200 and $15 a month for as many games that you can get in Xbox Game Pass. There are nearly 500 games now, right? So I'm just saying that the knock on Sony is that they are trying to sell you a service that's $18 a month that is bare bones minimum. And the inherent value, I'm sorry, it's just not there. It's not there now. Will it be there eventually? I would imagine so. But, again, Everborn, are you back, sir? Because I know he was on the grill.
The king of the queue is gone.
Cooking the pork chops.
Well, you know what? Let's bring up this conversation. We still have about 17 minutes before we hit the 2-hour mark and we get everyone out of here. The question that I want to pose to the panel is, what makes Sony do day and day? In your opinion, what is it, that one thing that makes that Jim Ryan
drops?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll
that's
get into
the easy
it.
answer.
I mean, well, take it away. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, Sony is, like I said, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. They're acting like they're Nintendo right now, because Nintendo completely destroys everybody in console sales, but they're not a $1 trillion company. Like, let's be honest here. I mean, Microsoft ain't worried. Microsoft's investment right now is in Game Pass because they feel like they have a foothold in that. And that's where I went and called them out earlier and said, like, if you're going to have a foothold in a service-based software system, you need to make it right quickly. And I think, like, the teams are, like, having no sleep about it. but that's because, hey, you did something wrong at some point. So I'm good with that. But what Sony's doing is there's like, oh, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna say this one time, and this person's gonna say another thing, and we're gonna try to get both sides. Well, I'm sorry, people are too smart right now. Like, come on, let's be honest. Like most of the people in the chat right now are pretty knowledgeable about what they're investing in, whether it be TV, a sub, your water bill, for the love of God, whatever it may be. Like, money's tight right now. And you look at Xbox and Game Pass and you say, man, they're really not, yeah, you could get, if you pay a little bit more, which is not $70, by the way. You paid what, 40 to get, Forza Horizon 5 like a little bit earlier. Was it 40? And you got all the DLC.
You could upgrade and still play it on Game Pass, but you paid the extra. I don't know. I think it was $30. I don't know if it was 40.
It's somewhere around there, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you upgrade, you get all the DLC. That's what they said, and I think they're going to stick to it because they don't want bad PR right now. This is not Xbox is not doing well at this moment in time because you have so many people going onto your service. They've won the NPD as far as PlayStation to Xbox. Nintendo's on their different trajectory. They're doing their thing. And they are quietly not saying a damn thing. Everybody, think about that. They say nothing. And they're working with Xbox. They're working with Sony. Xbox has done more for Nintendo. You had Outer Worlds on there. Guess what? It was a private division that did that. No, that was Xbox saying, we're going to make this work. Remember a lot of people, it's like 15 frames per second. It was true. But now all of a sudden I see no complaints. Nobody's saying that the game's trash or nothing like that. Think about it. It runs on a Nintendo Switch. Think about that. Come on.
Yeah, so, no, you're making great points.
Nintendo's quietly sitting there like, you know what? They are a $1 trillion company. We are hundreds of billions. And Sony's even more hundreds of billions than we are. We're going to sit here and we're going to be quiet and we're going to sell our consoles. And then, hey, maybe Xbox says, hey, you know what, Nintendo? Do you want Game Pass on your console? Do you want us to completely overhaul your entire online shit? And that is the stipulation. And we get like 10% of the sales on there. Xbox is in the position to do that. You know what I'm saying? They are in the position because it's owned by Microsoft and they could do what they want. But is it really? It's not against gamers. Like, I'm a gamer at the end of the day. I'm not the CEO of a fucking company. I'm sorry. But that's the way you got to look at it.
No, you're absolutely right. Kay Asante, let's bring you into the conversation, brother. What makes Sony pivot?
I honestly think that and a lot of folks in the chat have also made that point as well. Even though right now Sony's kind of looking at them with the side eye, like, let's see how this goes. Let's give Microsoft a year cycle, meaning, 2023. Okay, let's make it 2023. We'll see what they do from the beginning, the middle to the end of the year. Yeah, we have what do you call it? Console sale, chip shortages in the mix. They've been able to resolve that. Clearly, there's conversation of cloud streaming. Give them a year when they say they're running on full cylinders, right? Do they release their AAA every quarter? Is the conversation what we expect it to be when they're running on all cylinders? Do we see so many people buy their games and get into Game Pass that all of a sudden they become the only conversation in town? When that happens, that will spur PlayStation to be a bit more aggressive. Right now, they don't need to be, right? The conversation is being talked about. Oh yeah, they're losing their position, and in the when we're having a conversation about innovation and moving forward, sure, they're about the tried and true business model, as Everborn has said. You cannot get people who are getting fat off of the successful business model to change. So clearly, the business model is changing all around them, but they're benefiting from it. So why change, right? Even Nintendo's not benefiting from that business model as much as PlayStation is, because yeah, PlayStation, Nintendo does sell the consoles very cheaply, because obviously the hardware has been out for so long that the cost to manufacture is very cheap at this point. But they're also not selling you $70 games. They're not selling those games as frequently as PlayStation is, right? When was the last time we heard Metroid Prime was coming out? We're still waiting on those.
Yeah.
So when they do come out, they sell gangbusters, right? Their attach rate is amazing, but they don't release as many games. So to answer the question directly, when do I think it's gonna happen? It's gonna happen when they see Microsoft and Xbox as a whole chipping away at their bottom line, right? When all of a sudden, like Mr. Boomstick keeps prognosticating about, when you see the Series S with a Call of Duty logo on next to it, and it's flying off shelves, right? When the puck is out, and you can choose to buy a console, or you can get the puck, or guess what? It's on your TV everywhere you turn. It's Game Pass we're talking about. And in addition to the quote unquote fodder, they also have third-party amazing games that are coming out, which they keep saying, just give it time. It'll happen. When it starts to happen, and you start seeing that even some of these some of the folks in the chat who are right now trying to interview for PlayStation positions, even they will be convinced, to the point where they will themselves get themselves a PlayStation, get themselves a Series console, or possibly a Game Pass subscription. You know, it is Sony's bread and butter to keep an eye on their market and on their consumer base. And yeah, it's true that they're the market leader now, but they're keeping an eye on that consumer base. If they start to dwindle even remotely, you will start seeing them take more aggressive action. You've seen it now, right? You think that all those acquisitions they made was just because they felt like it last year? No, the competitor made them respond. They're getting in the game. They're taking away certain IPs and options from us. So in order for us to fight that battle, we need to get more aggressive. So they got more aggressive. It became acquisition season for them, right? They've been buying things up left and right. When
7 or 8 in the last 18 months.
Organic.
Exactly. Yes, organic. Yeah. So when Xbox starts, that's how you'll know, right? You will know by when the day and date will happen, by how successful of a year Xbox is about to have.
And 2023 looks to be that one year that's going to be the telltale.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's how you'll know. Well, you'll know by how E3 looks. You'll know by how all the news that's being dropped. If Microsoft hits that sweet spot where the Metacritics are from all readings, whether you like it or not, from all readings, they're hitting top-notch levels, and everybody's talking about them, and the numbers are good. Oh yeah, day and date will be just a matter of and here they are. It won't be all of them, but you'll see them start happening, because they can't afford not to do that.
Well, you know what? They already can't afford the situation that's already happening now. People are already talking about 2022. Being another big monster banner year for Xbox, right?
Yeah,
for the second half of the year. Sony released 3 first-party games this year so far? I can't even remember.
Well, they had GT7, they had Horizon, and they had the big mini game, indie game, Sifu, which was
Sifu.
Yes.
Okay, that was the other one. And then,
actually, oddly enough, it seems like Sifu's the winner out of all those three, right?
Because
the others have all had some kind of negativity a little bit.
I feel bad for Sifu because everyone stopped talking about it right after Elden Ring. That's
that was the Horizon Zero Dawn thing.
It's lunch eating, which is it's a good game
as well, right? But yeah, so you look at that situation. Like Sony released 3 big games. You could also include Legacy of Thieves in there. I mean, that's that's more like up my alley because I'm an Uncharted guy. But anyways, the thing is, you look at a situation like that, right? And they released all those games, and you presumably have 1 game coming in the fall. Well, actually 2 if you include Forspoken, which is a timed exclusive, but that's fine. We'll count that as an exclusive. So you got 2. But then if you're going to get onslaughted again, if Microsoft decides to, open Pandora's box for the second half of the year again, because we're going to find out in June exactly what they're up to for the rest of the year, right? So that's when you're going to find out. Then that's going to be not 1 Asante, but 2 years in a row that they got their ass handed to them. They got their ass handed to them in 2021, and if they get it again, you might see this situation happen by 2023. You might see Spider-Man 2 launch into a service or whatever, and it's not because they want to. It's going to be out of complete desperation.
They have to respond.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, whoever needs to hear this, and if you need a safe space, but come on, guys. You don't work for Sony, and they're not your moms. They're an effing company. Okay, so like if they don't do as well, like what do you cry about?
So let me ask you this, Mag, because I know that we got you to 9 o'clock, and we got 5 minutes, and then we'll get Dutch in here.
Looked at the, I'm just like,
what do you honestly believe that 2023 is the oh crap moment we need to respond for Sony?
Yes, 100%. Actually, I think the end of 2022 is going to be the oh crap, we need to do something, and then I think in 2023. They're going to have to make a move because let me tell you something. Xbox is not slowing down. They're not going to rest on their laurels. They're going to keep, you remember what was that movie? I think it was Casino when they're talking about Joe Pesci. They're like, you bring a knife, you bring a knife. He brings a gun. And if you bring a gun, you better kill him because he's going to keep coming back and back until one of you is dead. That is what Xbox is doing. They are not sitting on their hands. They are going to keep coming back and back and back, and they got the money, the power, and the clout to turn out your lights. So you better be ready for it. And the thing is that I don't think, well, I mean, they are ready for it. I think Sony is ready for it. They just don't want to do it. Let's face it. They don't want to do it, but they've got the know-how and they've got the power to do it. I just don't think they want to because I think they're very comfortable in the situation that they've been for the last, 25 plus years.
Well, also just one, I do like, this is not to make an excuse for Sony, but they have been kind of sitting on their hands while Xbox has been preparing for this, right? So we can go 5 years back when there was all this consternation about Halo and other first-party games going to PC, right? So all these fights have happened already on the Xbox side, right? All those things have been done, and they have done their homework, right? So now, in terms of it seems like Microsoft is doing these nice things now, and they're doing it because they are friends. It's show business people. It's not show friends, right? Mm-hmm. Microsoft has been preparing for this right now, and Sony is doing the same, but they just started several years late. So I always know where Sony's going.
Yep. Watch where Microsoft was 6 months to a year ago. I was saying the same thing.
The way I look at it,
don't listen to what they say. Never do that because you're always going to be misled. Right. Watch what Microsoft did a couple years ago because that's where they're going. Yes. I'm sorry, Matt. Right. Please continue.
No, all I was going to say is one last thing is basically the way I see it. And whether people don't like it, I'm looking at you, chat, some of you. Sony right now is Rocky Balboa from Rocky 3, and Xbox is Clubber Lang. Okay?
Yep.
In the gym, pounding the crap out of the bag, getting bigger, getting hungrier, getting wiser, getting smarter, getting stronger, getting better. Yeah, no kidding. And that's what they say. And like the champ was the champ for so long, but now instead of training, he's too busy taking pictures with the women or whatever, right?
Yeah,
doing photo shoots
Ferraris and stuff.
Hey, Mag,
right. That's what I see.
Let me take your analogy to another level. I think Sony is Apollo Creed, and Xbox might be Ivan Drago.
You know what? That's a great way to take it for sure.
Nasty.
I said it.
You said it. That's right.
Chris Singleton, I love you, buddy. He hates me. I guarantee he hates me. He's almost like Guapzilla whether I'm on Crossfire. Anyways, guys, I got to run. It's 1 minute.
We'll see you next week, brother.
Yes, guys, that was a great show. Chat, you guys are amazing. Thank you guys for all coming out tonight. And don't forget Manscaped, folks. Guys, we'll see you all next week.
Absolutely. Listen, before we bring in Wandering Dutch, Noel HDZ in the chat says PlayStation is king in the land of gaming, like it or not. Yeah, and you're right. They are currently the market leader, but not for much longer. I honestly believe that the salvos that are going to be coming their way is going to knock them off their perch, and I have a strong suspicion that they're going to be in third place. And when you can't make your console, you can't sell it. And they are dying on the vine. Them and Nintendo, somehow or another, Microsoft has figured it out. Whether that is by paying extra for the chips, or the fact that the Series S is easier to make, and that's why you could literally find that everywhere. I couldn't say because I'm not in marketing, but I can tell you that the fight has been brought to Sony's doorstep, and I think it's a fight eventually they're going to lose. But again, that's just my opinion. Real quick, Dark Saint 217 drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Hey, I finally caught you live. All I want to say is keep up the great work, and I love that you and your lovely wife runs the channel together. Absolutely nothing better in the world. Thanks for the kind words, brother, and of course the generosity." Yeah. As a matter of fact, before we went live, Mrs. Boom was doing all the back checks, making sure that I had all the correct hashtags, for Manscaped and the website and everything. And she does all the real fine details, which is why you do everything together. But thank you for the compliment and of course the super chat. We also had one come in from, let me see, we Hacky Sacked, good friend of the program. He's drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, "Boom, good time playing big team battle of Halo last week." Yeah, dude, that was awesome. Dutch was a part of that. That was a lot of fun, man. We had like 20 people roll through and we played for 3 hours. It was awesome last Friday. But Dutch, let's get your opinion on this, and then we'll get Everborn, and then we'll get everyone out of here. What puts Sony into desperation mode? That's what I want to know. When do they say, you know what we're doing isn't working?
It's hard to say. I wouldn't say what they're doing isn't working. I think what they'll have to do, and as they'll probably not be used to from recent years, is they're going to have to change the output speed in order to match the output speed of the competitor. And in this case, if Xbox, even if you say Xbox are releasing 4 titles a year and 2 of those 4 are hits, PlayStation, and of course that's just on saying half of them are hits and the other half are kind of mid, should we say? And it's always a possibility. You're not going to hit 100% of the time. And most of the time you hit probably about 50% of the time. And I think Sony have probably realized that more recently with the release of Horizon Forbidden West. The first one was a big hit. The second one they haven't reported on the financials for in terms of its success over recent months. And if it had succeeded, Sony would have shouted it from the rooftops. They are keen to shout about successes when they've got them. Likewise for GT7. So for them, personally, I don't think it's going to be desperation mode, but what they will need to do is adapt to the new norm, and that is they're no longer going to be the only cat on the block, the only one that's sitting there and pumping out big titles frequently or big critically acclaimed titles publicly. You can win as many games of the year as you like. But facts of the matter are, last year, Xbox Game Studios were across the board the highest critically acclaimed publisher from all developers. So it's that is essentially the be all and end all for Sony as well. They look at critical acclaim, they look at their critical success, not just the financial success. And that's what drives them and their games going forwards and what they produce and how they produce it. They've seen a new market trend in games as a service. They want to produce that. They want to get into it. I think for them, they will see what the competitors are doing. They'll see what Microsoft's doing. They're investing in studios. Sony are now investing in studios. They're looking at the amount of output that Microsoft's going to have in terms of games over the next few years. When we're talking about the actual wants and needs, Microsoft said they want to release at least one big game per quarter. And if that is achieved, and it will be achieved with the amount of studios they've got going forwards, Sony's going to have to nigh on match that to get at least 1 to 3 games per quarter releasing annually. We're not talking about a studio releasing a singular game and then not doing anything for the remainder of the generation. I think those days are gone. You can't rely on that anymore. What we've seen at the beginning of this generation is Sony's had a really strong start of the year. Microsoft had a tail end, unbelievable end to the year. Same's happening this year. Sony have had a really strong start with some awesome games. Microsoft are going to tail end the year with a really strong end, with Starfield, with Redfall, and a few other titles.
Motorsport, Deathloop. Everyone keeps forgetting about poor Deathloop, folks. That didn't release on the Xbox. It's coming, and it was a 90 meta Game of the Year title for many. So, yep, there you go.
So it's a case of right now they're doing this boxing bag to and fro. We've got the beginning of the year nailed. We've got the end of the year nailed for the holiday season. But it's not going to be like that all the time. When these first party studios, and we have to say when now because it's inevitable. It's not a case of it's not in production. There are currently 23 studios, not including Activision. Currently 23 studios with over 40 projects in the works at the moment. It is only a matter of time until they start coming out at a frequent date and time frame. And when that starts happening, that's when Sony will need to respond. And I don't mean in terms of quality, I mean in terms of output. We know the quality is there from Sony. They just need to start delivering more and often. And that is the end of the game there. I think their investment in studios is going to continue. They're saying they want 10 games as a service games by, I think it was 2025. Which is a significant amount of games as a service games. Of course,
that's a lot. They would have said 5. I'd have been like, okay, 5. 10 is a lot.
Yeah, and we've got to say, I mean, Microsoft have got a few, but they don't have 10 of their own. They've got a few major successes. You got to look at, for instance, Sea of Thieves, which is huge for games as a service game. With over 20 odd million registered players now. That's massive considering where it was.
Yeah.
Then you have a look at a little passion project that was Grounded and how well that's doing as a games as a service game now.
And that hasn't even officially launched as the actual launch. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got the Flailing currently, the Flailing Halo Infinite, which is a games as a service game. And over time, granted, it's had probably not the best start to life as a games as a service game. We all kind of admit that we'd love more maps. We need more content. That content will come. It won't be in the same shape next year as it is this year, and so on and so forth. That's how the games as a service games work. They need to get over the initial failures in order to realize their successes. And it will be. And once those 3 are in the park, but that's only 3, never mind 10. Then you think about first-party outputs in terms of the big games, the Naughty Dogs, the Insomniacs, the Sony Santa Monica's, the Guerrilla Games, you name it. They've all got projects in the work. So you couple that with multiplayer projects in the middle of it, a few multi-plat projects. That's when they're going to have to start coming out now. They've technically, I think, across the board got there or thereabouts the same studios. Maybe it's not to the same degree, but they have the same amount of studios. And what they don't have is the same amount of projects in the work. Currently sitting at around 20-something projects. So essentially, they do need to increase the output. They need to increase the projects. But that would potentially mean bringing on more studios. And we know every one of them are in a position right now to bring on them additional studios into the fold. So for Sony specifically, do more of what you do best, but do more of it and quicker.
Yeah, no, I mean, great point. Listen, folks, that is going to do it for this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming, sponsored by Manscaped.com. Everborn, before we get out of here, brother, you want to add your 2 cents in here?
Yeah. No, I mean, like you guys have said a lot of what I wanted to say. I just think that I think, not to be the Sony apologist of the night, but I do think that Sony and Jim Ryan are trying to move with a deft hand. And I just will come back to the Disney comparison, Disney to Netflix. I do think Game Pass is the Netflix of gaming, and I think that they will end up ultimately being number 1. But I think there's room for the Johnny come latelys, as they say. And I think Sony's IPs, once they do make that promise, you will see them shoot up in numbers, right? The question is, when will they do that? And they are trying to make that calculation as we speak. So when and again, I don't think it's too late because Xbox hasn't hit 50 and 100 million yet with Game Pass. So there's time, and they can make that decision at any time. And I promise you, Jim Ryan is not going to be able to look his board members in the face while Game Pass is potentially at 100 million subs one day and say we can't do that, right? So you got to let Microsoft prove the model. We've seen this time and time again, right? I said it before. Xbox Live achievements, Xbox Live Gold. These are things that needed to be proved first. Microsoft has the money to prove it, so they will do that. Now, hopefully there's still publishers left on the table, but I think slowly they know they're getting there, and that's why they're making these inorganic acquisitions, right? Because they know they're going to have to fill that service. If they announce the service right now, like today, Sony, and they said day and date, do they have enough studios to fill that service? Right. And another thing to think about is that, and I don't know, I think this was said already, Microsoft also has a lot of money to pay for third-party exclusives, right?
Yeah.
And Sony may not be able to do that. They can do that, with their little market share now, but Microsoft has kind of killed the console install-based advantage, right? That's what the cloud is about. That's what the Series S is about, right? So that's what PC is about, right? So the install base is not going to matter when Microsoft wants to make a deal with you, right?
Indeed.
So these are all things that, like, you understand that MLB The Show is not in PlayStation subscription service. Think about that. They can't even get their own game in there, right? Sony can't afford to put their own game in their service. This is why I believe what that CFO said, right? Yeah. They just ain't got it.
No. Listen. That look. What you're saying, it makes a lot of sense, and it makes it look even worse for Sony that they can't put MLB The Show into their service. Granted, right? The service isn't out yet, but. Jordan. It's not good. But listen, folks, I want to thank everybody. We had a late super chat come in from Vanessa Ria. She drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says this: Boomcast and community here. All of you are incredible, and thank you so much for making this all happen. Have an awesome day. Well, thank you for taking the time to be here, and of course, thank you for the kind words, and of course, the generosity with the $5 super chat. Let's get to the outros, and we'll start first with Kay Asante. Kay Asante, sell your brand, brother. Talk about the Gaming Circle podcast, where they could check that out. And more importantly, let's get you to 1,000 subs this year. You crossed the half-century mark at 500. Let's get you over to the 1,000. If you're just finding the channel, and everyone's links are literally one click away, go and sub my friends over here and help them achieve a monster goal. That's a great show that you should check out on Saturdays. And to see them hit 1,000 would be big. Talk about it again.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And a lot of your viewers,
sell your brand, brother.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. A lot of viewers already actually watch the show, and I see some great community members that are also in our show as well. So thank you guys so much. I enjoyed the show today. Always great, interesting topics. TKO Asante, Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation. We have the Gaming Circle podcast. This Saturday, we actually have, right off of his stint of announcing that after 8 years, the man is stepping away from the Basement Arcade podcast. We actually have Eric Jackson joining us for the episode this week, and I'm actually very excited. He's been a great podcaster, one of the people I used to watch a lot back before I got into it myself. So looking forward to having a great conversation with him. So
That's
this
cool,
weekend,
man. Yes.
Yeah, man. If you have a chance to come check us out, Gaming Circle Podcast, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And myself and Mr. Everborn Saga try to keep it PG-13 in the slander, but we have a good time. So come check us out. Well, yes, I do that. I have to rein him in as everyone tends to do these days, but it's all good. It's very good. But no, we have a great time on the weekend. Go for it. Can't be stopped. Sure you can. Well, mute your mic.
Well, there you go. Wonder and Dutch, sell your brand, brother. Why don't you talk about what you guys do on Wednesdays? Now you're doing double duty on not only your own show, but Primetime Gaming. Where could people tune into that and subscribe to your outstanding YouTube channel?
Yeah, of course. So if you want to warm up before the Primetime Gaming, of course, we've got the Midweek Mix-Up podcast every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time. That is, of course, 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to warm up before you come to this show earlier on in the day, over in the States and, of course, in the EU, then we are on just before this show over at Wandering Dutch YouTube channel. And, of course, every Sunday as well for the Midweek Mix-Up Weekend Edition. Of course, coming up, much like Boom, we'll be having a whole host of shows
It's going to be a very, very busy a week lead up to and a week after E3 or
we've just
the
released
Summer
our
Game
schedule
Fest.
And 9 shows in 11 days so far.
Wow. Yeah, so, that's a marathon right there, brother. Yeah.
Marathon. So there's lots going to be coming, lots going to be having fun with. We do a lot of live streaming and things as well. But yes, you can find me everywhere at Wondering Dutch. Awesome show, awesome panel, awesome topics as usual, and awesome chat. Of course, keep it gaming, people. Remember, it's a hobby. Have fun, enjoy it. But awesome night. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, tomorrow's new episode of X Vlog Live at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sitting down with the former 343 developer and current producer of Song of Iron, Joe. We're going to be talking about. Actually, it's going to be a nice light show. We're going to be talking about his favorite picks that he's hoping to see at the show, but more so. We're going to talk about what, as a developer, it takes to make a demo leading up to one of the big shows. He's going to give us some behind the scenes or inside baseball, as they have it, to give us to talk. He's going to break down what the teams have to do to give us that slice of gameplay leading up to a big show. Again, I'm super stoked because I don't know about development. I cannot wait to hear this behind the scenes look. And he's going to break all of that down, as well as try and pick what his favorite studio is and what they're releasing. It's going to be a lot of fun. 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my YouTube channel, X Vlog Live, episode number 12. But Crispy Bomb, what's going on, brother? Where could people find you on other shows? And more importantly, where could people reach out to you on social media?
Oh, man. Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Shout out to the chat. You were here in full force, and I love it. I mean, we're here to talk games and talk about stuff that you don't want to talk about yourself, but you want to listen to. And that's always great. At Chris Baum on Twitter, Chris Baum 28 Xbox Live. You can find me tomorrow night, 8 p.m., the next podcast. We got Friday morning. I will be back on Boom's channel, Breakfast with Boom. And I'm sure we're going to have some kind of fire to talk about. We got Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. And, of course, you can find me back here on Primetime Gaming, Wednesday, 7 p.m.
Nice. Well, listen, that's great that we're going to have you this Friday on Breakfast at Boom. You know, remember, you've come on for this show. That's going to be a very spicy show. I'm not going to break down what the topic is, but it's very spicy, to say the least. Among other topics, Batman, Gotham Knights, next gen only. And there is a $300 collector's statue that, thanks to Keasante, you made me do it. You made me buy this damn statue.
I did not make you do it at all.
You literally possessed my fingers and made me click yes, yes, and yes. So that was.
I was actually an enabler because I made you do it and I didn't do it myself. I was like, nope, that is the price of the Series S.
Wow.
This is
how dare you?
This is making the drugs and selling them and not using your own stuff. This is outrageous.
You up to do stuff, and then as soon as the teachers came, they're like, I don't know nothing. I don't know why he did it.
Bro, that's the price of a Series S, homie. Come on, they got to do more than off of.
Man.
Well, listen, I'm a fan, and I don't buy many collector's editions anymore. That one I could. That's dope. But anyway, Everborn Saga, please sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone about the Everborn Saga, where they can get it on Amazon with free shipping around the world, and more importantly, what else you got going on.
Listen, I'm going to be short and quick tonight. Everborn Saga everywhere. You name it, type in Everborn Saga. You will find me. We sell comic books. We are producing a game, 2D beat 'em up, matter of fact. But we'll have more to announce on that later. But like favorite social media network, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Instagram, anywhere. Just Everborn Saga, you will find me. And if you are not in the States, go to Amazon and you can find the Everborn Saga books there, and it'll work with your free shipping. But if you are in the States, they're the same price, but they come signed by yours truly, and we make a little bit more money when you do that. So
nice.
If you're in the States, check out everbornsaga.com.
Well, that's going to do it, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out on our New Day Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be back next Wednesday. Of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that is important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules. And I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.